The third difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics is the economic agents which are operated. In microeconomics, producers and consumers are the main economic agents. You know that consumers always try to maximize their satisfaction, whereas producers always try to maximize their output. So, economic decisions are taken by individuals or microeconomic agents in case of microeconomics. Whereas in macroeconomics, economic decisions are taken by institutional economic agents like in India, for example, in our country, Reserve Bank of India, Securities and Exchange Board of India, such an individual economic agent or institutional economic agents take the economic decisions. So the difference is economic agents which are operating in microeconomics, producers and consumers are the economic agents, whereas in macroeconomics, institutional economic units like Reserve Bank of India, Securities and Exchange Board of India, such institutions take important decisions regarding the whole economy. Fourth difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics is the degree of aggregation. Degree of aggregation means how much the different values are aggregated. In microeconomics, there is only a limited degree of aggregation because only an individual economic units, economic aspects are studied. That means there is only limited degree of aggregation is there in case of microeconomics. That means you are simply studying the equilibrium of an individual person or equilibrium of an individual firm or equilibrium of an industry. Such things are studied. That means the degree of aggregation, the degree of calculations, aggregations are limited in case of microeconomics, whereas in macroeconomics, higher degree of aggregation is there because simultaneous equilibriums of various individuals, firms, industries, etc. are studied under macroeconomics. The equilibrium of an economy is completely studied under macroeconomics. So, large figures are needed to be aggregated, and so there is higher degree of aggregation in case of macroeconomics. So the point is degree of aggregation, micro there is only limited degree of aggregation, whereas macroeconomics there is higher degree of aggregation. And we are moving towards the fifth difference between macro and microeconomics, that is different set of assumptions. You know that economics we use different assumptions. Simply the relationship between two variables are studied keeping all other factors constant, which is technically termed as ceteris paribus. So in my different set of assumptions point, in microeconomics certain variables are assumed to be constant in micro but they are variable in macro. Some variables which are assumed to be constant in micro but they are always keep on changing in macro. For example, total output and total employment assumes to be constant in micro but it is a changing factor, a variable in case of macro. At the same time, certain variables are assumed to be constant in macro but they are changing in micro. For example, distribution of output in macroeconomics it is assumed to be constant, but in microeconomics distribution may vary. You know, some people may get more, some people may get less. So the degree of distribution of output is constant in macro, but it is variable in micro. So fifth point is different set of assumptions. Some variables are assumed to be constant in micro but it may be variable in macro, and some variables are assumed to be constant in macro but which may be variable in micro also. Sixth difference between micro and macroeconomics is the central issue. In microeconomics, the central issue, so the focal point of study is allocation of resources. How limited resource can be allocated in various ones so that at an individual level or at a producer level or at an industry level how output can be maximized, which is output or satisfaction can be maximized. That means the central focal point of study is the allocation of resources. But in case of macroeconomics, determination of overall level of output and employment is the focal point of study or central issue of macroeconomics. So the determination of level of overall level of output and employment. How the maximum overall output can be maximized, thereby correspondingly employment also can be maximized. So that is the central issue of macroeconomics. And the last difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics is the method of study. In microeconomics, only partial equilibrium analysis is there. Partial equilibrium analysis means you are simply analyzing the equilibrium of an individual market, keeping all other things constant. So only the equilibrium of a small unit is studied under microeconomics, whereas under macroeconomics, simultaneous equilibrium in all markets are studied, thereby overall equilibrium of the economy is studied under macroeconomics. So the last difference is the method of study. In micro only partial equilibrium is studied, whereas in macroeconomics simultaneous equilibrium of all the markets are studied under macroeconomics. So these are the fundamental differences between microeconomics and macroeconomics. Once more, I am just going through the points. First one is basis of study, second economic variables, third point economic agents, fourth degree of aggregation, different set of assumptions, fifth point, sixth the central issue, and the seventh point is method of study.